Welcome back to the After Injuries podcast. If you've ever slipped on a wet floor, landed hard on your shoulder, or felt something grab during a game or an overhead lift, you know how easy it is to say the 5 most expensive words in injuries. Maybe it'll just go away. Maybe you finished the game. Maybe you went home, iced it once, and told yourself you'd rest for a few days. Then a week goes by and you can't get your arm all the way over your head. Putting on a shirt feels like a project. Rolling onto that shoulder at night wakes you up. Nothing in this episode is meant to diagnose you or replace an in-person exam. The goal today is to help you understand what might actually be going on with a shoulder after a fall or sports hit, how to avoid the trap of waiting too long because it's not that bad yet, and most importantly, how to find a local chiropractor who actually works with shoulder injuries, not just low back pain in general. By the end, you'll know what to search for, what to look for on websites and profiles, what to ask on the phone, and when it's time to escalate beyond conservative care. Section 1. What might be going on in that shoulder? Let's start with what we're talking about when we say shoulder injury in this context. Common scenarios. You slipped and landed on your side or outstretched hand. You got hit or tangled up in a game and your arm got pulled or forced back. You pushed overhead or benched something and felt a sharp, sudden pain. After that, people often describe a deep ache in the shoulder or upper arm, a sharp pain when lifting the arm above shoulder height, trouble reaching behind the back, like tucking in a shirt, pain lying on their side. And some of the more common problems chiropractors see in this lane include sprain/strain injuries to the muscles and soft tissues around the shoulder, AC joint irritation, that bump on top of the shoulder where the collarbone meets the shoulder blade, rotator cuff, tendinopathy or partial irritation, the small muscles and tendons that help control and stabilize your shoulder, and neck-driven or nerve-related pain that you feel mostly in the shoulder area but that starts higher up. And there are also injuries that clearly need medical or orthopedic attention quickly, like obvious deformity or a shoulder that looks out of place, inability to move the arm at all, significant trauma with a loud pop and immediate loss of function. If any of those are present, that's not a wait-and-see chiropractic situation, that's a get medical care now situation. For everything else in the mild to moderate range, early evaluation and a sensible plan matter a lot. Section 2. Why shoulder injuries are so easy to downplay. Shoulders are sneaky because they give you a lot of ways to compensate. You can turn your torso instead of lifting your arm. Use your other hand to do overhead stuff. Adjust how you sleep so you're not directly lying on that side. And therefore, it's easy to say, well, it only hurts when I lift in a certain way. Yeah, the natural way. Or, I'll just avoid these moves for a while. Or, once things calm down at work or with the kids, I'll get it checked. The problem is that while you're working around it, the tissues that are irritated don't get consistent load in the safe, controlled ranges that help them heal. Other muscles start overworking to compensate, which can spread the problem to the neck, upper back, or the other shoulder. You might gradually lose range of motion that's harder to get back later. So episode 4 is really about this. If a shoulder injury is changing how you move, sleep, or train, it's important enough to get a proper assessment, even if you can still, quote, get through the day, unquote. Section 3. Smarter searches. Again, we've got to get beyond chiropractor near me in our Google searches. Generic searches pull up generic results. If you type chiropractor near me or best chiropractor in your city, you are going to see a mix of offices, many of which are built around lower back pain, wellness care, general stress relief. And that doesn't mean they can't help. But your goal is to aim the internet at people who handle shoulder and upper extremity injuries regularly. So think about 3 pieces. What happened? You want to use the words fall, sports injury, weightlifting, or overuse. 2. What's hurting? Shoulder, rotator cuff, upper arms. Use those words. And 3. Where are you? That's your city or your area. So, again, this breaks down into effective search phrases you can use to identify the right chiropractor for your shoulder. Example 1 is sports chiropractor, shoulder pain, your city. Or shoulder injury chiropractor, your city. Or rotator cuff pain chiropractor, your city. And finally, as if you haven't gotten the point, overhead, sports shoulder chiropractor, and then your city. Then you can include the activity. Pickleball shoulder chiropractor, your city. Weightlifting shoulder pain chiropractor, your city. And this is basically telling search enough of a story. You're saying, show me the chiropractors who talk about shoulders and sports injuries, not just lower backs. Section 4. What to look for on their chiro website or profile. So once you've got a list of potential clinics, click through instead of picking the closest dot on the map, and then scan for a few key signals. First, they actually talk about shoulder injuries. Look for a shoulder pain or shoulder injuries page on the website. Look for specific mentions of rotator cuff, AC joint, sports shoulder injuries, or overhead shoulder movement injuries. Look for blog posts, videos, or FAQs about shoulder problems. If their entire site is back pain, neck pain, headaches, wellness, and nothing at all about shoulders, you have no evidence they're a good match for this episode's scenario. Second, they describe an evaluation, not just a generic adjustment. On the shoulder side, a decent first visit should go beyond, we'll adjust your spine and see how it feels. Instead, you want some indication that they take a history of what happened and how your shoulder behaves. Then check range of motion, what you can do and can't do. You would hope they check strength in different positions. And pay attention to neck involvement and nerve signs. And that doesn't have to be spelled out in medical jargon, but phrases like functional assessment or movement evaluation or specific shoulder tests are all good signs that this chiropractor works with shoulders. And they mention activity and sport, not just pain. It's a plus if they talk about getting people back to activities, getting people back to sports. Use or if they talk about modifying workouts temporarily. For example, here's how we keep you moving while your shoulder calms down. And they mention phased return to play plans. That tells you they're thinking beyond pain gone and toward you can use your arm again with confidence. And finally, their reviews sound like real shoulder stories. You want to scan their reviews for people mentioning shoulder pain, rotator cuff issues, gym injuries, or falls. You want to see comments about getting back to activities or sports, like lifting, rec league, work tasks. If all the reviews are about low back pain and sciatica, again, doesn't mean this chiropractor doesn't work with shoulders. It just means we have literally no evidence of that. Now, Section 5. Here's your short list to qualify these chiropractors before you ever call. Here's a quick, quiet checklist to run. First, do they clearly mention shoulder or upper extremity injuries on their site? Do they talk about sports, falls, or overhead activities, not just sitting-related back pain? Do they describe some kind of structured evaluation, even in simple language? And finally, are there at least a couple reviews that sound like your story? And if the answer is yes to most of these, you've got a pretty decent short list. And if the answer is no across the board, it's probably worth finding one or two more options before you pick up the phone. Section 6. Your guide to what to ask when you called the chiropractor about your shoulder injury. And how to try and see if your situation is normal for that office. You can literally have the following questions in front of you and read them when you call your chiropractor. Question 1. Do you regularly see people with shoulder injuries from falls or from sports like overhead lifting or rec league games? You'd obviously like to hear, yes, we see that a lot, ideally with some examples. Question 2. What does your first visit look like for someone with a shoulder injury? Here you're listening for some combination of a history, of an exam, of assessments, and explaining a plan. If the answer is just, we'll get you adjusted and see how it goes, that's too vague, and that shoulder might need some specific testing. Question 3. If you think this is something that needs imaging or an orthopedic opinion, how do you handle that? And you want to know in the answer that they have a path for ordering imaging like X-ray or MRI when appropriate, or referring you to another provider if they suspect something is beyond their scope. Question 4. What does the first month of care usually look like for this kind of shoulder? A reasonable answer might include how often they'd typically see you early on, when they recheck progress, when they change course if you're not improving. If they get defensive, act rushed, or cagey about these basics for your specific injury, that tells you plenty too. Section 7. What early good care often looks like. And while every clinic is different, early care for this kind of shoulder injury often follows a pattern. The early phase. To calm and protect. And the goals here are reduce pain and irritation. Protect the shoulder from specific movements that really flare it up, and keep the rest of your body moving. This might include gentle, controlled range of motion work, soft tissue work around the shoulder and upper back, adjustments where appropriate, often including the upper back and neck, not just cranking on the shoulder, guidance on sleeping positions and daily modifications. Then the middle phase. looking to restore strength and control. And this is once the shoulder tolerates basic movement. And it's light strengthening focused on the rotator cuff and shoulder blade muscles. It's gradually reintroducing the positions that used to hurt with control. And it's integrating neck and upper back work if they've stiffened up from guarding. Then the later phase, a return to your specific activity. And this is where your provider should help you progress back to your sport, job task, or gym lifts. Understand which movement patterns contributed and how to change them. And recognize early warning signs so you don't end up back here. Good care doesn't mean zero discomfort on day 3. It means your pain and function are moving in the right direction with a clear plan, not just random visits. Section 8. When to escalate beyond conservative care. There are clear times when you should escalate. Seek medical, orthopedic evaluation promptly if you lose the ability to lift the arm or hold it up against gravity. There's a sudden, sharp loss of function after a pop or new injury. Pain keeps getting worse over several weeks despite doing the right things. And you notice significant weakness or visible changes in shoulder shape. Consider imaging or another opinion if you've given a solid stretch of focused, conservative care, not just a couple of random visits, and there's no meaningful change. Or if you're not getting straight answers about what they think is going on. Or if your provider is uncomfortable with the way the pain is behaving. Escalation isn't failure, it's the system doing what it's supposed to do. Starting with a safer conservative option and moving up only when necessary. Here's our shoulder injuries after a fall or a sports hit FAQ. Question 1. Do I need to stop all activity until the shoulder is 100% pain-free? The answer is not usually. In many cases, the better path is to avoid the specific moves that spike pain while staying active in safe ranges and other body areas. A good chiropractor will help you sort this out: what to pause, what to modify, and what's okay. Question 2. How long should I wait before seeing someone if it's, quote, just sore, unquote? If the pain or limitation hasn't started clearly improving within a few days, or if it's interfering with sleep, basic daily tasks, or your work, it's reasonable to get evaluated instead of waiting weeks. Question 3. Can a chiropractor help if I already saw urgent care or my primary doctor? Why, yes, medical providers are great at ruling out fractures and serious problems, prescribing meds when needed, and giving initial guidance. But a chiropractor who works with shoulders can often pick it up from there with movement-based care and a structured plan. Question 4. Do I need imaging before seeing a chiropractor for a shoulder injury? Not always. In many mild to moderate injuries, a good exam guides the first steps. If your chiropractor suspects something that needs imaging, they will refer you or coordinate with your doctor. Question 5. What if my shoulder feels fine at rest but sharp with certain moves? And that's common. Pain with specific movements is still a signal. The goal is to figure out which tissues are getting stressed and how to restore those motions safely, rather than simply avoiding them forever. In closing, your shoulder is not optional hardware. If your shoulder injury is changing how you move, sleep, or play, it's not just a tweak. Your next step isn't to panic. is to search in a way that surfaces shoulder-savvy chiropractors in your area. Scan their sites for actual shoulder content and real-world stories that sound like yours. Call, ask a few clear questions from our guide, and choose someone who sees shoulder injuries as part of their normal week. You only get one set of shoulders. They're not optional hardware. Treating "I just tweaked it" like it matters now is what gives you the best shot at avoiding bigger problems later. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the After Injuries podcast at After Injuries on YouTube or afterinjuries.com. Don't hesitate to use our specific case type guides to search for, qualify, and call chiropractors with questions about your case type. That's what we're here for. And if you're a multi-location chiropractic office, check out visible.info and/or reach out to us at afterinjuries.com.